Hello everybody, Razorblade Mango here. Today I want to talk to you about a long-held opinion of mine that I feel like has become unpopular within recent memory. So, this video was inspired by the release or updating of a trifecta of games, and that would be Sea of Thieves, Battlefront 2, and No Man's Sky, with No Man's Sky being the most recent one, where they announced, their biggest update yet is coming sometime this summer, alongside an Xbox One release. So it would be the release of Sea of Thieves and the updating of Battlefront 2 and No Man's Sky. So, when the news hit the web that No Man's Sky was going to be updated, and it was going to have its biggest update yet, I started to see this group of people kind of shout down the people that were criticizing the game initially, saying things like, oh, well, they're fixing the game now, so you need to let it go. Or, hey, this game, they never, you bought the game, you have it. It was going to get patched later. They're road mapping content. Oh, they should be congratulated for updating the game. I give Sean Murray so much credit for updating the game. Well, here's my problem with that kind of thinking. And this all ties into the opinion that I have, which I'm probably going to title the video. And that would be, first impressions are everything to me. And I feel like this certain subset of people... Now, keep in mind, this video is criticizing that subset. If you like Sea of Thieves, if you like Battlefront 2, if you like No Man's Sky the way it is now, and you felt like you got your money's worth, then great. I don't have a problem with that. Like, if you really enjoyed it when it came out, you enjoyed Sea of Thieves, you enjoyed No Man's Sky back in the day, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I might have a problem with you liking Battlefront 2 the way it was, but that's, I say that out of jest almost. But for somebody like me, and I'm going to focus more on No Man's Sky because I feel like that and Battlefront 2 are the most notorious examples of this problem that I feel like is slowly eating away at game culture like this, where it is this concept among people of, well, we should be congratulating these studios for updating the game, for making them better. They're fixing the things that were broken at launch, and that makes it okay. You need to shut the fuck up. You need to stop beating a dead horse. And these are literally verbatim, these are things that I've read and seen. And my theory is, or my opinion is, no, they don't. And this is the issue with this whole focus on online games now, where we have this culture of patches, where they can easily make information outdated. No one will ever again be able to see what Battlefront 2 was like at launch. No one will be able to see what No Man's Sky was like at launch ever again, because of patches, because of updates. But what I care about the most from these games, from Sea of Thieves, from Battlefront 2, from No Man's Sky, is that how they treated their customers at that initial launch. That is what I care about. That is the only thing that I care about. And if you don't impress me at launch, if you don't feel like I deserve respect as a customer by giving me a quality experience for my $60, then why should I care about what future patches you're going to give me later on? Like, with the case of No Man's Sky, that game came out as an empty, boring, lying about shell. And Sean Murray, and I'm seeing this quote pop up again, that, oh, Sean Murray didn't say anything. Yes, he did. Sean Murray objectively lied about certain elements of this game. And even if he didn't lie about the game, I still would have found it a boring shell of a game, which is that's what it was, in my opinion, at launch. And I also am a special case where I did not pay the $60. I paid $80 for No Man's Sky because I believed in the game so much that I wanted to support it with the collector's edition. And I still have the collector's edition somewhere in my cabinet, minus the game, of course, because I don't fucking want it. Actually, I found it on my shelf right now. I still have all the tat that came with it. And that cost around $80 when it came out. Maybe $70, but I'm pretty sure it was $80. Now, you're telling me that I should just accept that, oh, well, they should be congratulating for updating this game. Because when you bought it for $80 a couple years ago, it was a shitty game back then, but they could have just dropped it and moved on. But they went in and updated it. And it's like, well, yeah, they had to. Why should that be worth a pat on the head? Did you see how fucked Hello Games was when they released this game? Do you guys not remember the shitstorm that was rightfully raised over No Man's Sky? Do you not remember the storm of controversy that erupted from Battlefront 2's god-awful exploitative microtransactions? Do you not remember any of this? And yes, it does still matter. I've said this before in other videos. I don't give a flying fuck what updates they bring to these games. I don't give a shit how many microtransactions they patch out of these games. I don't care how much content or missing features that they promised would be at launch were gonna be patched or being patched in later. I don't give a shit about any of that. What I give a shit about, the only thing that I give a shit about, is what the game is like at launch. That's what I care about. Now, you can come in and think, oh, well, that's a bullshit argument. No, your argument is bullshit. Because people like you, you're thinking, and I'm addressing this subset, you're thinking of, oh, well, don't worry about it. It's getting patched in later. They're road mapping content. You need to let that shit go. They're fixing the game. It doesn't have the microtransactions anymore. Stop complaining. It doesn't have the missing features anymore from No Man's Sky. Stop complaining. Well, that still doesn't change the fact that these companies made it happen in the first place. People forget that. People forget because the internet, quickly forgives this shit. I've seen it where all this rage and controversy over No Man's Sky, over Battlefront 2, all this anger over Sea of Thieves is just going to be disregarded in a couple months. People are going to forget about it because the internet gets bored really easily and they just move on to the next thing. And then when you bring it up again, they go, oh, let that shit go. Whatever, it's fine. It's companies like EA and Ubisoft and Warner Brothers that kind of, are banking on people like that do that just go after people that still remember all the shitty things that they did. Why? Because it's old news? It still happened. That doesn't... These patches, they may rewrite the game, but they don't rewrite history. When Battlefront 2 initially came out, it was a microtransaction-laden gambling festival. That's what it was. That was the initial hand that EA tipped towards its customers. EA is not the good guy here. EA, I don't care if they removed them. I don't care if they brought in a cosmetic-only progression, buying things now, whatever, monetary value, whatever. I don't care what it is now. I don't care what those fucking crystals are being used now. I care that on November 14th or 15th, 2017, Electronic Arts had the fucking nerve to charge $60 to $80 for a game that revolved around microtransactions as a progression system. That was a pay-to-win multiplayer experience. That's what it was. That's what it will forever be in my head. And I don't care what they do to change that. Similar with No Man's Sky. Back in August of 2016, I think it came out. That game was a boring fucking miserable experience that was missing a ton of stuff that had been marketed for years and years and years before it came out, months before it came out even. When Sean Murray was doing stuff, talking to the interviewer for Game Informer, when he was talking to Stephen Colbert on his talk show, when he was talking about the game, mere weeks before it came out, features that were not there, like multiplayer, where you'd be able to play with your friends, which he explicitly said that you would be able to do that. Well, you couldn't. You couldn't do anything. And people proved it by having, two Twitch users found each other in the game on the same planet in the same solar system and couldn't see one another. Not even a small little ghost thing like what Dark Souls does. They couldn't see anything. Where was, the warring factions in the game? Where was the space combat like in the past games? Where were the huge, massive amounts of animals that would run around and stuff like that, like in the old E3 trailers and everything? Where was all that? Where was the promise of you could just be a trader? You don't have to do anything in the game. You don't have to do combat. You don't have to collect resources. You can just do whatever the fuck you want. Never happened. And Sean Murray, right up until launch, never gave any indication that the game was in fucking early access. That's what it was. It was in early access. PlayStation, for 2 years now, has beta tested No Man's Sky for the Xbox community. It's what happened. It's not beating a dead horse. It's what happened. Time may have healed the wound for you, but do not think that these patches rewrite history. That's not the way the world works. And same with Sea of Thieves coming out looking like a barren, boring fucking shell with barely anything to do. And people come up to the people that are criticizing the game and go, oh, well, you need to shut the fuck up because there is content in the game. Why don't you stop complaining? Why don't you go find the content in the game? Verbatim, I've seen people talk to other people like this. But Rare said that there would be a lot more things in the game from the beta. And I played the beta. I know what was in the fucking beta. And what I've seen from the game, it looks like they barely added anything between the alphas and the betas. I was in that fucking insider program for Sea of Thieves for like a year now. I've seen the game. And the final product that came out a couple weeks ago does not look like anything has changed much from the beta. So, who's going to be responsible for this? Why? Is it the players' job to just automatically forget that Rare said all these things? That Rare promised that this game was going to be the most ambitious thing that Rare's ever done? Well, sorry, Rare. This is not the most ambitious thing you've ever done because it is so lacking in content that it's not even funny. And you have all these ardent defenders of it going up to people and being like, well, they're going to patch it in later. They said that they're going to add things after launch. I don't give a fuck about the things after launch. I care about the game as it is now. I care about the game when it comes out, release date, day one. I don't give a fuck about any of the shit that happens later. Now, to, rebuttal an argument that I may see pop up. Razorblade Mango, have you bought games, have you played games that you initially gave a pass on because of content initially, or stuff like that? Yes! Yes, I have! Overwatch is the key example of that. Overwatch, I didn't have much interest in the game when it came out. I looked at it, not my thing. Did I buy it like a year later? Yes, I did! I bought it a year later. I like the game, it's fine, it's good. Same with story-driven games even that I didn't really care for the first time. Did I go back and play them again? Yes, I did. Last of Us is a big example of that. Last of Us, I thought was just fine when it first came out. Did I go back and play it again? Yes, and I liked it more. I love it now. I love The Last of Us. It's one of my favorite PlayStation games. But the difference is between Blizzard, the difference with Blizzard and Naughty Dog and EA and Rare and Hello Games, the difference is I felt like what was in the initial content launch for Last of Us and Overwatch and even games that have been updated like Titanfall 2 and all that have free maps and everything, Those were worth it for the $60 price point. I felt like that was worth it. Compared to Sea of Thieves, which costs $60. And, oh, in a special case for $60, don't give me that crap about how, oh, well, you know, it's available on the Game Pass. It's available on the Game Pass. You can just pay $10 for it and cancel it on the Game Pass. Okay, if they wanted to just have people pay a little bit of money for Sea of Thieves and have it be a subscription-based game, why are they charging $60 for it? Why are they making this big marketing deal with it about being Microsoft's next big exclusive game? Why are they going on and on and on about how much the game has sold and how amazing the community is and all that within like the last week? If they really gave a shit about it being, you know, oh, we just have it on Game Pass or whatever, it's fine. Why didn't they just release it exclusively on Game Pass? Why not just make it an MMO? Why charge people upfront for $60? That's a stupid fucking argument. That whole Game Pass thing. It's a stupid ass argument. And you know Microsoft is banking on people to defend that game because of that Game Pass. Fucking Game Pass. Get that fucking argument out of my face. I've seen that fucking argument popped up so many times this last week. I'm sick of it. Having it be featured in a Game Pass does not fucking make it okay to have a barren, shallow game for $60. Because some people are not going to want to fucking get it on Game Pass, where it could potentially be rotated out within a month. Oh, and after that point, if it gets rotated out, guess how much you gotta pay for Sea of Thieves? $60 fucking dollars, mate! $60! And Battlefront 2, I haven't forgotten that it came out with exploitative microtransactions. No Man's Sky, I haven't forgotten that Hello Games and Sean Murray lied about the fucking game for years before it came out. I haven't forgotten that shit. Haven't forgotten it. I haven't even bought Street Fighter V because I don't want to. I like Street Fighter V, but I am not going to reward Capcom for releasing a fucking blank slate like 2 years ago. I'm not going to fucking reward that with Capcom. Capcom can go fuck itself when it comes to Street Fighter V. I don't care about all the free arcade updates and shit. How fucking pathetic is that, where they have to make an entire new edition of the game and call it arcade mode? Arcade update, or arcade edition, or whatever the fuck it's called. Should have come with a fucking arcade to begin with. So anyway, that's my opinion that I wanted to... I was initially going to do this video in a calm, you know, instructive manner, but no, no. Turned into a rant. So, here you go. Yeah, I haven't done a rant in a while. There you go. There's your rant. So, in closing, in my opinion, when it comes to these kinds of games, first impressions mean everything to me. And the people that are not saying so, the people that are trying to label people as, oh, you're beating a dead horse, you should just forget about it, stop complaining. You are the reason, you are part of the reason gaming is so fucked right now, that this shit is just allowed to be like people are allowed to get away with the shit. Companies are allowed to get away with the shit. Because we are so easy to forgive. We're so easy to forget because we get so fucking bored. After the story is done, being raked through the coals, we just move on to the next thing. And that's what EA and Ubisoft and Warner Brothers know. They're fucking smarter than you guys. Put the heat on them. Demand better. Don't buy Battlefront 2 now just because the microtransactions are gone. That's what EA wants. How do you not see that? It's what EA wants. It's what EA is expecting. And then they're going to go on and fuck up Titanfall 3 now. They're going to go on and fuck up the Respawn Star Wars game. And they're going to close Respawn, and Respawn's going to be a shell of its former self. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. The people that are, you know, falling for this crap from these companies. You're part of the problem. Fucking sort your shit out. For Christ's sake.